I have no time for this. I have no time for that. You actually have more time than you think. And I'm going to find you at least 5 hours of time in this video. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Leadership Launch series. My name is Spencer. I'm here to help build leaders and build their teams. And I'm so excited that you clicked on this video. Today, we're going to be talking about time. Everyone has the question, everyone has the general statement, I don't have time. Now, the first thing to think about when we think about time is becoming aware of time. When you say, I don't have time, what that really means is that you have a lack of priorities to add on whatever that additional thing may be. And that's because you have your own list of priorities you want to focus on and you don't want to add more to it because that strains your bandwidth even more and more. So when you say you don't have time, really means a lack of priorities. I'm going to humor you though. Let's say you really truly feel that you don't have time. I'm going to help you out with that, and we can discuss prioritizing later on, perhaps in a different video. If we truly don't have time, then the appropriate thing to do is find time. And the only way that you can find time is becoming aware of where the time is being spent. What we have to discover here is that we can't create time. That's an illusion. What we can do is become aware of what time is not being used effectively that we could use to other resources. The first step that I find when I'm trying to reclaim my sense of time control is becoming aware of where your time is going. How do you become aware of this? My favorite exercise to do, and this has never failed me, is something called the 168-hour exercise. Now, interesting fact for any of those that don't know, you have 168 hours in a week. All the week, 7 days a week, you have 168 hours total. And what I want you to do is when you think about this 168 hours per week, that's a lot of hours. If you take away hours for sleeping, assuming you're getting 8 hours of sleep, 2.5 hours per day for driving, right? To and from work or whatever else. So that is a total of 14 hours. Okay, so 20 hours for food. So you got 40 hours of work. And let's say you even go to the gym. Let's say that you go to the gym 3 times per week, because that's the statistical average. And that's 6 hours. Each session lasting about 2 hours. That's 6 hours for fitness. At the end of all this, you're gonna have about 32 hours left. Just off of this, 32 hours left. So you have more than a full day. You get to sleep 3 times, again over, fully at 8 hours, plus some, and still have a little bit left over to work with. Here's what I want you to do. Create a spreadsheet where you have all 7 days in the week, and you have it from about, I'd say that about from 5 a.m. till about 9 p.m. That's usually accounting for everything but sleep, because again, we're going to eliminate some of the work for us. So create a sheet, make sure that you label the times correctly to whatever your calendar is, whatever your schedule is, it doesn't matter. And throughout the week, I just want you to observe. So just observe how the time is being spent. What's important about this, don't judge yourself. Don't make yourself wrong. Don't feel good, don't feel bad about what you do. There's gonna be a couple things that happen. One, you're gonna notice right away that you are wasting time on things that you didn't think you were wasting time on. And two, you're gonna be surprised what things that you actually prioritize compared to what you thought you prioritized. So observe. And a part of this observation is you put reminders in your phone to make sure you keep up. So put reminders in your phone to keep up, to make sure it's accurate, because it defeats the whole purpose of doing it if you're not actually accurately tracking it. Like, why track it in the first place? So again, put reminders in your phone to keep track accurately. This is going to happen for 1 week. If you mess up, and if you wait a whole day before logging the hours of the previous day, you restart. Yes, you restart. If you wait a few hours into the evening before doing the day and you forget something or you feel like you're missing something, you restart. You need to make this as accurate as possible. Data that's not accurate isn't data. It's just you guessing. And that doesn't help anyone. No one of an expert guesses what they do for projections. They always make calculated insurance, calculated measurable actions, and they keep track of their data, of those results accurately. So again, if you don't observe it properly, restart. Now, once you observe, I want you to reflect what you thought your priorities initially were. And you know what? Have at it. Go list down what amount of hours throughout the week you thought was going to which and what. Now, after that, I want you to compile the data and I want you to take a percentage of where all your time goes. So compile all the hours, or sorry, compile data. Then you're going to find out what your new list of priorities are. When you figure this out, you're going to see that you've actually found a lot of time that you can spend because what your actual priorities are compared to what you thought your priorities are going to be so vastly different. I guarantee you, you at least find 5 hours of time, at least 5 hours of time, of which you can be using in a more productive manner. Okay. Now, some of you may have heard the second one called Parkinson's Law. So, Parkinson's Law, which says that the amount of time that you allot for something will fill the time allotted. And this is true. It's not theoretical. This is true. People will have their due date for assignments to be like a month from now for a project, and it will take them the full month to get it done. And sometimes they don't even get it done. There are very easy ways to see how you're not using the time effectively for that because you either procrastinate, you're either procrastinating, you aren't as intense about the work. If there's a lack of intensity, lack of intention, and you can feel a lack of momentum. It may sound weird at first, but all of this is completely true when you talk about Parkinson's law. All right. And so the simple key to this is understanding that you don't need that much time for what you think you need that time to do. Even if you're working a 9 to 5 job, I guarantee that the work that you do, more likely than not, doesn't need the full 8 hours for you to do in the first place to get the results that you do or you don't get. And there are two ways to really address this. One, you can either add more with the same time frame. So add more, same time frame, or you keep the same amount of work but less time. I typically go with the less time because time is very tangible for me. I can look at my calendar, see that something I think it's going to take 2 hours and say, okay, I'm going to do it in 1 hour instead. Whereas if I add more stuff in the same time frame, stuff is very vague and stuff does take some time. And unless if I've done it before and I've done it 100 times before, I can't tell how much time it's going to take. So by default, you should opt out to keep the same and just do it in less time. And if you really operate in that method where you have this deadline and this time, if you need to make 2 weeks of content, do it in only one, you're going to be operating differently compared to, hey, I have 1 week, I'm going to create 2 weeks worth of content. You don't really grasp that as well. So unless if you do this as your career, right, then you opt out for the second one. And most leaders tend to be generalists until they can become specialists in just solving problems. That's why you opt out for the second one there. one thing to note is that when you act with those two principles and you start looking at your calendar, you need to have weekly reflection, a weekly reflection on what that looks like. So once a week, you may say it'll take you an hour. It's not going to take you an hour. At most, it takes 30 minutes. And so for once a week, for 30 minutes, not an hour, for 30 minutes, you reflect on where your time went and you reflect on what you're planning to do and you cut the time in half. Whatever you think something's going to do it in half the time. So again, reflecting on what you did on the previous week, what you did, what you didn't do, where the time went, and that's just going to get you grounded again that you do have time. You just may not have had the right focus for where that time is going. Again, I'm not saying make yourself wrong or make yourself bad for any of this. Don't do that. Just simply observe and reflect. Then the second one, using the second way to interpret Parkinson's law, make sure that whatever you think, do it in half the time. Whatever you think it's going to take, do it in half the time. Boom. Now, on top of that 5, this in itself is going to generate you an extra 10. An extra 10 time. And this is also assuming that you're not actually delegating any work or paying for services for people, assistants of any kind to free up your time from responsibilities that you do have to address in your day-to-day life. Now, lastly, throughout your week, there's this one sentence. This one sentence changes the whole outcome of how you use your calendar because you can either look at your calendar passively or actively. And this one sentence has changed my life in terms that I say this every time someone asks me something or I'm thinking of something, and I say this out loud. I've made it a habit. It's my own little system. What I say is let me check my calendar. When you have the let me check my calendar, I want this to be your reaction. I want any time that someone asks you for anything, the first thing you say is, let me check my calendar. You pull up the calendar, you take the time, you review your calendar, and you see if you have the time. If you really want to do it and you don't have the time, then schedule it for a different time. It's that simple and easy, and you're going to be able to show up. Now, once that becomes reactionary for you, it's also going to give you a moment of pause for you to distinguish if you really want to do that, if it's really aligned in your priorities or it's not. And it's okay if it doesn't align with your priorities, you just got to say it. You can't just do it for the sake of doing it for the other person or whatever opportunity it is. It may be a great opportunity, it may just not be your great opportunity. So you gotta really stick with what your priorities are. And it also helps reinforce the whole habit and system of sticking with the calendar in the first place, because you're not selling yourself out to humor, to give attention to something that you don't really want to have in your life in the first place. So this is the first step. Just simply say, let me check my calendar, because it creates that pause. You get to look at the calendar and you can actually see if this is what you want to do. If you want to get really advanced, advanced would simply be if it's not on the list of priorities, you don't do it. Okay, so you look at your actual, you know what your actual priorities were, and that weekly reflection helps you keep it in line with what your priorities are supposed to be or what you want them to be. So then when people ask you for things, you simply ask yourself, is this a priority? Because now that we've established that it's not the fact that you don't have time, it's just that you weren't aware of the time and you're giving too much time to things that don't take that much time. Now we can say that we can just simply tell people it's not a priority, right? it's not something that I want to do. I'm going to say, for the sake of the argument, that it is something that you have to do, you don't want to do it, and you don't need to do it yourself. It's not your priority, but it has to get done. That's when you delegate it. That's when you give it to someone else. And that's when you leverage your time with someone, your money with your time for someone else's money and time. I hope that was really helpful for you in terms of claiming back some of your time as a leader, for at least your personal use of your own time in your calendar. I will release another video talking about delegating time to others. But for now, comment any questions they have below and subscribe so I can see you in the next video.